If Joe Biden is replaced, and if he's replaced by his VP, Kamala Harris, how would she actually do? We decided we're gonna dive into the most recent evidence as well as the evidence we have going back some time to figure out, would the Dems' chances actually improve? And so there is some good news and some bad news on that front. So according to ABC News, for the most part, national polls have shown Harris doing about the same as Biden in head-to-head polls against Trump going back some time. In a March Fox News poll, Trump led Harris by 6 points and Biden by 5 points. Those effectively are the same thing with a poll like that. And as recently as June 28th, the Data for Progress poll showed the president and vice president each losing to Trump by 3 points, which was also within the margin of error for that poll. But a June 28 to 30 CNN poll found Harris losing to Trump by only 2 points, while Biden was trailing by 6, which is more significant. Now, when you take those polls and combine it with a variety of other factors, these news outlets create their own models for these sorts of things. They think that Harris would have a much lower chance than Biden. They gave, at that point, Biden a 48 in 100 chance to win the Electoral College. Harris has a 31 in 100. The first polls we were talking about, national polls, it obviously comes down to the actual states. And so they're estimating at that point that barring nothing changing, she would have a much worse chance.
The video will continue in just a moment, but first I have a message for you. TYT needs your help. Membership is vital to survival. So please go to tyt.com/team and become a member today.
But that said, I do want to remind everyone of one of the polls we talked about earlier this week. So this was the big poll that shocked everyone with Michelle Obama beating Donald Trump by 11 points. Harris there is trailing by 1 point and doing better than some of the other names that have been thrown around of Whitmer, Newsom, Bashir, and Pritzker, but 1 point worse than Joe Biden, who in that poll was actually tied with Donald Trump. I will say, we talked about that Open Labs poll that had been leaked and sort of was circulating, showing Joe Biden losing like 2 to 3 points in basically every state they looked at. Well, that poll showed Harris beating Trump, but Biden losing to Trump. So that would be the good news. We don't have the specifics on that. It's just sort of being leaked and being reported or whatever. And so the evidence does not indicate that this would be a massive shift for good or ill. There could be some upside. And a lot of those polls were from before the debate. It's possible that her numbers haven't improved, but Joe's have gone down, which would make her seem like a more appealing replacement potentially. And were she to be the nominee, it is possible that she could change the way the public thinks about her in a way that it's been difficult for her to do as VP. So there's a lot of stuff. Brett, what do you make of this?
Okay, so in those polls that you ask people, the one you showed, the Reuters Ipsos poll, if we could put that back up, graphic 8. Look at the size of the people who don't know. That is the key. That is factor one. People, if you ask them a question, they're like, I know already. That's gonna backfire. Known quantities going into this don't give you an opportunity to let the talent of your candidate take hold and win people over. The most dynamic candidate, I don't care if you like him or hate him, is Gavin Newsom. Also, he did have a very long relationship and dumped Trump's daughter-in-law. So he is part of the extended Trump universe, and he has tooted and booted Kim Guilfoyle into the arms of Donald Trump Jr. That is the kind of alpha bro sigma type dominance that will beat Donald Trump in a head-to-head, hands freaking down. That, and he's a hottie patati with a banging body. Like, these are the kinds of things that will beat Donald Trump in a head-to-head debate format if it goes forward. People are talking about Andy Bashir like he has this magic sauce to be a Democrat who wins in a red state. His dad was governor. His dad was governor of Kentucky. The secret sauce is not his ability to bring the two sides together. His secret sauce is name recognition and the state he lives in. His last name. So that's the last thing I'll add to that.
I think, look, there's a lot of pros and cons for these candidates. I think with Gavin Newsom, one thing that might help is I was looking, I think some commentator for the New York Times is breaking down one of their polls after the debate, and they showed that the big movement that people saw in Biden versus Trump after the debate, he actually improved his position amongst women following the debate. which
Trump?
is very interesting. No, Biden did slightly, but he lost a ton of men. And so the overall result was that Donald Trump benefited by, I think, in that case, I think it was 6 points from right before the debate to after the debate. 6 points was the difference. And it was basically all men. And so I don't know, maybe someone like Gavin Newsom would give you the best chance with men who, for some reason, are super sensitive to these sorts of things. I don't know exactly why.
You just
but really
need a
fast,
star.
let me throw out one other thing. Here is why it seems like the Trump's team is a little bit worried about Harris. So they say Harris would help turn out more women who historically vote in greater numbers than men already. Harris, armed with Democrats' abortion message, which worked well in off-year elections, could leverage the nation's gender divide, okay? Another concern specifically has to do with vitality and energy. Harris is 2 decades younger than Donald Trump. She would look very vigorous, not just in comparison to Biden, but in comparison to Trump. And Trump's advisors, I love this, worry he has no filter and recognize that attacking a Black American, South Asian American woman could backfire among swing voters where they think they're making inroads. He'll say wild stuff about her. That said, he did that in 2016. Maybe it hurt him. I don't know. It doesn't seem to have hurt him that much, but yeah, there would be some wild things he would say. He would definitely verge into incredibly racist territory, so that could hurt him. And so that's some of what they're throwing out. What do you think about their concerns about Harris? And do you think they'd be more scared of Gavin Newsom?
I think everybody's more scared of Gavin Newsom because he's a television star. And Kamala Harris, if she is a prosecutor the whole time, she has this thing where she wants to soften herself. And when she gets nervous, she giggles. That is, if she can fix that, great. Be the prosecutor television star you were during the Kavanaugh hearings only from the time that this unlikely, this likely/unlikely scenario, depending on who you ask, when it finally kicks in, you have to just be a prosecutor the whole time.
That's and look, they also, I think one of the advisors mentioned that the Democrats' ability to pitch the race as a prosecutor against a felon in terms
That's
of
stupid.
framing. No, well, I'm just saying what they're saying. I'm not saying.
Don't remind everybody who's gonna care about him being a felon knows he's a felon.
Yeah,
a prosecutor, it's just for the purposes of being. People love watching Law and Order. Just give them that successfully.
Just give her
period.
the sunglasses. Members make a difference here at TYT. You help make the show happen, and we see you in the chat with your loyalty badge. Click the join button to become a member today.